Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novy-Williams, and this is the Je suis désolé sports business podcast, the Sporticast.
Translation, please.
That means I'm sorry, apparently, Scott. I did a little bit of Googling on my way to Cannes to set myself up with some very basic French phrases.
And you picked I'm sorry as what you would need?
I chose yes, no, thank you, please, I'm sorry. I figured the very basics. And I got here, and I, of course, am very often speaking Spanish to people just because I'm just confused about where I am.
When I was in Italy and I'm having dinner and I asked the server, I said, aceite.
Okay.
Right? And, of course, that's oil.
Oil,
olivo. But it's olio in Italian.
Mm.
And I kept saying aceite. I kept screwing that up. Yeah, so when in doubt, I would default to my Spanish, just thinking, well, that's close enough.
Yeah.
Or I'm not the stereotype ugly American. I'm not saying English words slowly as if that'll mean, you should understand it.
I'm doing a lot of like hand signals, pointing, thumbs up. That's a good one.
But by the way, I'm amazed that you're just there for a couple of days, and you seem to, and obviously I can see you here, have adopted you have a little ship behind you, the glasses, the tan. You seem as if you are really enjoying the Cannes lifestyle.
It's very kind of you to call this a tan. I would call this a burn.
Well, that's coming from me. I'll show you burn, man. I burn.
Enjoying it. Before we get into the Cannes stuff, I need your opinion on something. You're going to love this, I think. An airplane etiquette question for you.
Ooh.
So I'm flying to Cannes, or flying to Amsterdam from Vancouver a couple days ago.
Which carrier? It's important. I need to know.
It is KLM, the Royal
Dutch Airlines.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. So I'm sitting in the aisle seat of a 3-row middle row. So it's aisle, middle, aisle. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting next to a man in the middle seat and then his wife in the aisle seat.
Are you on the right or the left?
I'm on the left.
Okay, I'm more comfortable on the left. Okay.
So I had been at a wedding. I was kind of a red eye. I was sleeping, essentially. Middle of the plane ride, I'm sleeping.
No way she got you out instead of the husband.
Guy nudges me.
No.
He's like, I'm sorry, I need to use the bathroom. I wake up. I'm like, what the heck?
Was the wife sleeping on the other end?
The wife is sleeping.
Wow.
And in my head, I'm like,
seething.
I cannot believe that he did this.
Seething.
Like, you have to wake your wife up in that scenario. But the more that I'm thinking about it now, I'm wondering if maybe he's just the smartest man alive.
Well, I mean, I could say what the repercussions are. Obviously, he knows I am not waking but he had a decision to make, and he chose the pain to be yours instead of his own. So the selfish nature of it is beyond no.
Assuming that the pain would have transferred from the wife to him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what happened.
There is absolutely no world in which it is okay for him to disturb you instead of her.
I didn't end up saying anything to him, but in my head I was like, I cannot believe this guy had the nerve to
see, that's the difference between the two of us. I absolutely would have been I would have said, just a question. I mean, I'm up, I'll move. Why didn't you ask your wife? I would have said something there.
I could see you reaching over and just waking the wife
up
I would
have
on your way to getting up. Yeah.
And I would have. Yeah. When he was in the bathroom, I wake her up. How about this? Nobody's in the row. I'm on the aisle. He's gone. I wake her up and say, "Excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom the other way." How about that? And then let her describe it to him, and he'll know darn why it happened.
And then he has to explain to her why.
He has to explain to her why I just woke her up and exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
There is no world in which that's okay.
Yeah. Again, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, maybe it is okay. Maybe he's just self-preserving, causing pain to someone he doesn't know versus the opposite.
It's absolutely self-preservation. Absolutely. And there's still no world in which that feeling of dread of what I'm about to endure would supersede my ability to go and disturb somebody else that I don't know. No way. Yeah. Exactly. No way. I love that we're 4.5 minutes into this podcast, and this is because this isn't. This has to.
We could do a whole episode on airplane etiquette.
We could do. You and I have a whole lot of disagreements on etiquette and things that we're not going to bring up now. Maybe on another full show, a full show of our disagreements. Yeah, absolutely. But why don't you describe? Because people say Cannes Lions, and I'll admit I didn't really know what it was not too long ago. Everyone knows the film festival. Okay, and by the way, it's Cannes, not Con. If you say Con, people know you're not, of the regular cognoscenti, if you will. Yeah. So Cannes Lions, explain what it is, what you're doing there, who else is there, what you're seeing, what you're hearing. because I'm only getting snippets on Twitter. So let me know what's up.
So every year, right after the more famous Cannes Film Festival, is Cannes Lions. It's a big marketing festival. And it's, I actually don't know how many people are here. Thousands of people from around the world, marketing folks mostly, but it's agencies, it's ad buyers, it's companies that are sponsoring descend on Cannes, beautiful South Shore of France. It's gorgeous here if you haven't been. Come here for a massive festival. And one thing that is different kind of over the last few years, but especially this year, Scott, is there's a sports presence. And I think if you were on the ground, you would feel the same way I did. It's shocking that it took this long for there to be a set sports presence at Cannes, but the folks
seems like such a no-brainer.
100%. And the folks over at Stagwell, who we partnered with a little bit on the endeavor, launched Sport Beach. And it's 4 days of literally right on the beach.
But everybody's got their own little beach, right? Am I right? This is what I'm picturing from what I'm hearing from folks. Is like everybody's got a little section of beach.
A mile of beach, and tons of companies have set up maybe 100 yards of beachfront to do whatever they want. Build a cabana. Sport Beach has a basketball court and a pickleball court. Some people are doing kind of beach club vibes. And then at the end, there's a yacht row, and tons of people do kind of a yacht thing, right? Where they have a yacht where they can host people or people are staying on. So it's all of those things. It's essentially a 1 mile stretch, and there's tons of corporate stuff happening. And at Sport Beach, Stagwell did a great job of putting together a ton of very famous athletes and then, prominent executives across the sports universe just to talk about, honestly, Scott, a lot of the things that you and I talk about 2 times a week on the Sporticast. It is about the merging of sports and culture and media and fashion and luxury, all of that rolled into one. And for example, Carmelo Anthony did a one-on-one today where he talked all about his business ventures, right? And his desire to be not just a very famous former basketball player, but to be someone who has a stake in and an equity position in a lot of these different entities, right? And there's been a lot of talk about women's sports. The panel that I moderated included Paul Rabel and Allie Wagner.
Oh, so this is past tense. I can't keep time zones and everything. Past tense. You've done your panel.
I have done my panel. Yeah, it was Paul Rabel, PLL founder, lacrosse legend, and then Allie Wagner, who is a former U.S. women's national team player, Fox Sports
NWSL Bay Area team,
and is one of the LPs, minority investors in the newest U.S. major sports franchise, Bay FC. And we talked a lot on that panel, obviously, about the way in which media is changing to the benefit of smaller leagues like the PLL and like NWSL, right? Where you can be very smart and creative in your strategy of reaching fans. And right now, because of media and because of social media, there's tons of ways to build a very interesting, small, successful, sustainable business around those things, right? And if PLL had launched 20 years ago, it probably would not have been as successful as it is right now. And women's soccer, as you know, Scott, professional women's soccer really struggled for a long time in America before the current iteration.
But by the way, professional
NWSL
men's soccer
really
did
took
as
off.
well.
100%. So I do think there's a lot happening right now around media and around social media that's letting leagues like this take off. And then to bring it full circle, the embrace of athletes, right? I think NWSL has done a really good job of understanding that there are some very, very famous athletes that play in that league, and they need to embrace and support them to grow their own product. And Paul, for folks who are familiar with PLL, essentially the whole business model of PLL was that the established lacrosse league was not really doing right by its players, wasn't investing in and supporting in and bringing along its players in a way.
Well, they all had second jobs. They couldn't just play lacrosse for a living, and now there's 100%. Equity stakeholders in the league.
100%. So yeah, a lot of this again is kind of full circle conversation, but it is very clear here that in a collection of some of the biggest advertisers, agencies, and marketing executives on the planet, a lot of them are here to talk to learn from, and to get FaceTime with athletes.
All right, let me close my eyes, and I have no idea. All right, you're taking off the glasses at the time when I was just going to go. I was just going to go to the glasses. I'm trying to picture Carmelo. Similar glasses to what similar
More
glasses on the
glasses.
beach.
Yeah.
I'm picturing white linen.
Okay.
And I'm struggling with this one, but I'm gonna say hat of some sort. Yes or no?
Interesting. He wasn't a hat. It was a baseball hat. Forward.
Good.
There was. He was not in linen though. He was in a cardigan knit sweater. Which, let me tell you, in the heat that we are
I was going to say that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And he was in pants also, which is also pretty rare from what I'm learning here.
It's not rare to be in pants, just long pants. It's
Fair,
not rare to be in. Well, maybe it is. You're there. I'm not.
You'll laugh at this, Scott. I got in Monday night pretty late, and it was pretty temperate when I got in. The sun was down already. Wake up Tuesday morning, put on pants and a blazer, like a full blazer, and I walked outside and I went over to Sport Beach and I looked around at people and I was like, I gotta go back and change.
Turn around, change.
Turn right around.
Should have gone with the Soshnick wardrobe
Put on the linen shirt. But yeah, there's also, I should mention this because I am very intimidated by it, but it is also a very big fashion scene, right? The world of casual linen fashion is on full display here, and it won't surprise you or our listeners probably to understand that I do not have any of that in my personal closet.
No, I can talk the game. I just don't wear the game.
Yeah.
But tell me, I'm curious though. So what is Carmelo telling everybody? Is he talking about the basketball career? Is he talking about? We'll give a little shout out to our friends George Barrios and Michelle Wilson and ISO 7, looking to put capital to work in a fund in a sports and entertainment ecosystem. Because I think we're finally, and I've used this before, but really, everybody's got a firm hold now that there's a reason why at ESPN, which stands, you think sport and broadcast and media, ESPN's right at the top of the pyramid, right, for a very long time. I think people are now starting to understand there's a reason why the E comes first, right? It is not SEPN. It's entertainment and sports, and I'm not even sure sports should be a subcategory of entertainment. It may be the most important part of entertainment, but we'll get it in there as well. But the E being first. So what is Carmelo telling the world? What does he see? What are they asking him? And who else is sort of backing up what he has to say?
I think the big thing is this idea, and again, more and more athletes are recognizing this, and Carmelo was on the earlier trend of it, is recognizing that when you are a basketball player or when you are a star athlete, or even not even a star, right? When you are a professional athlete, there is an opportunity there, not just to make a lot of money, which they do, but there is an opportunity there to set yourself up for the future, right? And Carmelo came to that, I think he would say, maybe later in his career than maybe others do, partially because of the timing, right?
Yeah. Was the mistake of too many athletes waiting until they were done playing basketball? That the thought process was, I'm a basketball player now, there'll be time for that later. Whereas now, I think the athlete understands your curating and your ability to make relationships with the titans of industry will never be higher than when you are a big brand name while still playing.
I think that's exactly it, right? It is. And if you were to ask everyone who gets drafted in the NBA draft this week, how long are you going to play? I think you would get some pretty long years, right? I'm going to have a 10-year career. I'm going to have a 15-year career, right? The average NBA career is microscopic, right? And a lot of players who are in the draft aren't going to have NBA careers at all.
Did I ever tell you the Donald Foyle story? Did I tell you that one?
Great name, though.
Did I ever tell you that story? I think
No,
both his parents, I believe, are professors at Colgate, where he played college basketball. And the way it was relayed to me, and I never asked Donald this, but the way it was relayed to me, the event where he signed his first pro contract, that happens. It's, the happy occasion. I've achieved the dream. Here I am. I signed my contract. Great. The way it was relayed to me, I believe it was his mother who that evening, let him have his, couple of hours of enjoyment, and told him, okay, I know what you're doing on your first day as a professional athlete. You're going to dinner with the family and celebrating. Great. Tomorrow, I'm going to need to know what you're doing on your last day as a professional athlete. That kind of thinking, he got maybe hours, the way the story was relayed to me, but maybe that's what happens when both your parents are professors. They see that look ahead. They understand that there's a finite window, and you better have a plan. Like you said, I don't think athletes really made that plan early on, but boy, that is certainly changing.
I had a good conversation today with Deshaun Kaiser, former Notre Dame quarterback, who essentially said he didn't think he was going to have an NFL career at all. He ended up having a fairly short one, but recognized in that time that this was the moment for him to try to set himself up. He started a business with some other former athletes. Now he's getting into podcasting. It almost, and I think I'm getting this right, it sounded like he maybe had an opportunity to maybe try to grind out a few more years playing football, and he felt like he had gotten to the point where he had gotten everything out of it and was ready to kind of move on to what he wanted to do business-wise. And then one other name I'll shout out, because I was really impressed by him. I hope I'm getting the name right. Chase Griffin, who is I believe he's the UCLA quarterback. Yeah. Was very impressed by him talking about NIL opportunities. And again, talking earlier and earlier in the process here, this is a teenager who may or may not have an NFL career at all, but is recognizing that just because he is a star at a very large college, soon to be Big Ten school, UCLA, recognizing that there's opportunities for him both to make money now through NIL and also to potentially set himself up for opportunities if and when he's done being a pro athlete. So again, I think that Carmelo is a good example of this, and there's plenty others that we talk about on the show a lot. But this idea that athletes should be using this moment to set themselves up and not be waiting until they're done in the spotlight to do so, I think is something that's relatively new at this scale for professional sports.
All right, I wasn't planning on a plug, but since you just messaged Chase and it goes with what we're saying, July 13th in Los Angeles, two great brands coming together, and obviously I'm biased, and it's inside Penske, but it makes total sense. This is actually where the whole industry is heading, and this, we're here. You're at Sport Beach and Stagwell talking about all this. That Variety, #1 name in entertainment news, Sportico, #1 name in sports and business news, getting together to do a sports and entertainment summit in LA. And you message Chase. Chase will be among those speaking, as will like Sean McVay, Russell Westbrook, Jaylen Brown. So we're bringing together the folks of entertainment. I'm going down here. What do we got? Katie Bender-Wynn, Max Bornstein, Jalen, Jordan Childs, John Cruz, Rosalind Durant, Blake Griffin, Tammy Hano from the NBA, Scotty James, snowboarder, Ryan Khalil, former NFL player, Karen Brodkin from WME Sports, Farrah Leff, Clutch Sports, Greg Luckman of Range Sports, where am I? Caitlin Ohashi, gymnast. I'm going up and down here. Patrick Patterson, former NBA player. This we're up and down, but this is what we're talking about. It's those in the entertainment world, those in the sports world, and they're just melding together. There is no distinction anymore. They each want to be doing business with each other.
I'll share one more story from here because it just stuck out to me. Do you remember? It was a number of years ago, but there was a Katie Ledecky commercial, chocolate milk, and she put the cup on her head and she swam the length of the pool.
I do. Yes, her head didn't move. Yes.
Great ad. One of the women, the advertising executives who was part of that on the milk side, was on a panel today, and she was like, "This wasn't our idea at all. Like, this was all Katie. Katie had this idea. We thought about it. She did it. We were like, that's perfect. That's amazing." And she said it, I think, to show that, athletes who are world class, Katie Ledecky is one of the most dominant Olympic swimmers of all time, also have other talents, right? And you maybe don't need a marketing degree to be able to think about what a great ad is for athletes, right? So empowering athletes, kind of tapping into their creative side when it's there, again, is all these things are happening more and more.
Well, that's the part, like credit to the listen, right? Oftentimes you think you just know everything.
Yeah,
if you're going to pay these folks a ton of money or give them equity in your company, you'd have to be stupid. Yes, and I will use that word. You're stupid not to listen, not to engage. Yeah, the creative side, the discipline side, all of it. So let's hear your ideas. I assume it'll be a better campaign if some of the ideas do come from the athletes themselves and go up, down instead of top, bottom.
And someone from the marketing team probably has no idea that Katie even can swim the length of the pool with a milk glass on her head without it falling, right? So
whoa. In all fairness, listen to what you just said. Do you want to say, you know what? Say that aloud again and see if that makes sense to you.
Now I'm confused.
That someone on the marketing team probably has no idea that Katie can swim. How? Who in the world? In fairness, I can't think of anybody in the world, the most creative, evil genius in the world says, I have an idea. Katie, can you swim with a glass on your head?
Really? I'm a amateur swimmer. I do it.
I know you want a still head, and like the running, you want to keep a still head, but you think, can you swim with a glass of milk on your head and not
it's crazy
spill
to
think
that a marketing executive might not know that that's an option.
Too much sun, brother.
Wow.
Too
Definitely
much
too much
sun.
I agree.
All right.
I agree with that.
All right, let's bring it closer to home now. We did all of the can stuff, but a couple of pieces of news back here that we'd like to talk about. And Harris Blitzer buying into Joe Gibbs Racing. And I think I said on Twitter the other day that sometimes deals just make perfect sense.
Yeah.
This is one of them. Obviously, Josh Harris of the Harris Blitzer, both Josh leading the group, David Blitzer, part of the group, buying into the Washington Commanders. If you gave people 5 guesses for names most associated with that, back in the Redskins to the Washington football team to the Washington Commanders, I'm thinking 95% in the top 5, all of them would include Joe Gibbs as someone on that. So there are synergies there. Think about what Harris Blitzer does as a platform with the Devils and the 76ers, all the sales, all the sponsorship, what they can bring to a NASCAR team and infrastructure. Sometimes it just makes sense. This one, when I heard about it and saw about it, said, yeah, no brainer. This one makes perfect sense.
And Arctos investing in Joe Gibbs as well.
Yes, of course. Well, you can't have an investment without Arctos these days. Exactly.
And there's been some reporting about Arctos's potential involvement in the bid for the Commanders as well. I'm curious for you, Scott. It doesn't feel like a coincidence, obviously, that in the middle of the process for buying the Commanders, that this deal gets done with Joe Gibbs, as you said, one of the most synonymous names with the NFL franchise. Is there a subtext here that is not clear? Does having Joe in your orbit grease the wheels of getting this deal done?
This deal's done, dude. No. You want me to? All right. Remember when I look ahead? All right. Maybe I know some things. Deal's done. It's for all of this. This is that. The NFL has the concerns. Whatever. This deal's getting done.
Agreed. So is this just a coincidence? What are we to make of the fact that right as this deal is getting done, there's another deal with Harris, with Blitzer, and with an icon of the Washington franchise?
If Joe Gibbs was an iconic figure, I think this is what you're saying. If Joe Gibbs was an iconic figure of, pick random NFL team, I'm going to say Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
Does this deal get done? Are Harris and Blitzer interested in acquiring? And I do have some inside information, not on this deal, but I can tell you this is not sort of the only other big other team platform that a NASCAR team has looked at for help on the infrastructure. Hey, would you like to make an investment in the NASCAR team?
Okay.
And you bring your sponsorship expertise, you bring your sales expertise, you can help us. So I think ultimately that one did not happen. Do I think Harris Blitzer would have looked at it anyway? Yes, I do. Do I think Harris Blitzer thinks this makes perfect sense? Because aligning yourself with a sterling brand beloved coach of a team that you're acquiring from an owner whose tenure was, shall we say, difficult. I think that added value. It's a value add. Joe Gibbs can come and smile and walk around, and you bring some of the hogs if you know those dudes. Anything that touches the past of this franchise that you can bring and say, we're embracing, this is a new day forward, we're embracing the best of what this football team had to offer in the past, is a no-brainer from the Harris Blitzer side. So I think that probably more than just Harris Blitzer looked at opportunities around NASCAR, maybe this team, maybe not. But Joe and the name and the pedigree and the provenance, if you will, made it make perfect sense.
You and I have talked in the past about how it feels like we're entering kind of this era of the super owner, right? Where so many of the people doing the investing seem to be repeat team owners or franchise owners. This means for Blitzer, he's got teams in all 5 major U.S. leagues, NWSL, and now also NASCAR. And Harris, about to close on the Commanders, and he's got a pretty nice portfolio as well.
And he was looking at the Nationals.
Was looking at the Nationals. I believe it's the only of the major 5 that Harris is not in some capacity. So yeah, there's a lot in there. And then, as we mentioned, Arctos being involved yet again in a major transaction. Some of these not surprising at all.
Not at all. All right, and the other one that got my attention, and I used the very colloquial. I went to Radio Shack. Did you ever go to a Radio Shack?
Radio Shack.
Have we done the? You know what a Radio Shack is? All right, I would go to Radio Shack for 2 things in my day:
batteries.
Yeah, and this exact item: rabbit ears. Like
okay.
you could always get a rabbit ears at Radio Shack if you needed it. Somehow. At least in my house, a ball was being thrown, and they started out as very flimsy. Then but if you extended them all the way and a ball hit them anywhere near the top, you were getting a snap. And that you could try the tape, you could try the tinfoil, you could try the whatever you want. It was not the same, so you had to go to Radio Shack to get another one. While you were there, you picked up some AAA and D batteries for whatever you needed it for. But if you're a fan of the Utah Jazz, you may need some. You may want to go out and get some. I believe Ryan somebody called them bunny ears, which I had not heard. Rabbit ears to me always. But we have another owner now going over the air TV in sort of this melting glacier of the RSN world.
Yeah, this one is Utah Jazz moving from RSN to over the air TV and a separate digital offering as well.
And by the way, it's a Sinclair station, which I thought was pretty funny.
That's funny. The one that
the over the air is a Sinclair owned station. Yeah. So
and we should mention the RSN they were on was not a Sinclair, was not a Diamond, right? And we've talked about this whole thing around the Suns, right? Who made a similar announcement and is now kind of dragged back into the legal weeds because of the Sinclair bankruptcy. The other 2 teams that we've seen do this, first the Golden Knights and now the Jazz, were coming from non-Bally's, non-bankrupt RSNs, right? So in this case with the Jazz, it was an AT&T Discovery channel, and Discovery has announced that they're getting out of the RSN business entirely, right? So the Jazz need a new partner. Deja vu here a bit, Scott. The everything Ryan seems to have said around this really mirrors what Matt Ishbia said about the Phoenix Suns deal a couple months ago, right? It is about reach, the ability to reach essentially every home in the Salt Lake City area. As opposed to the much smaller percentage of homes that the AT&T RSN was in, is the way that Ryan is thinking about this. And we had this conversation with Brian Lawler on the pod a few weeks ago. The economics here are not going to be fully even, at least not yet, right? The team is going to be paid less for its local rights as a result of this over-the-air TV deal than it was under the prior RSN model. But it certainly seems as though increasingly owners like Bill Foley and Matt Ishbia and Ryan Smith are willing to take the immediate hit, maybe make the economics back, or honestly, Scott, maybe even take an economic hit just to make the experience of being a fan of the Jazz in Salt Lake City.
And make no mistake about it. You can talk about reach and penetration, but you're still going to take an economic hit right now.
100%.
Yeah.
And one other thing that stands out to me, the 2 owners that have done this first in the NBA are 2 of the newest NBA owners. They're 2 of the youngest NBA owners.
Glad you went there. There you go.
And they are also 2 of the wealthiest NBA owners outside of the NBA asset, right? And I do think those things are absolutely related.
I think you're right. You want to put the glasses on for the close? Like Joe Biden would? Like this would be a Biden run. There you go. I love it. That man right there, he is Eben Novy-Williams on the Twitter at Novy_Williams. That's the same in French? Novy_Williams. Yes?
Yeah,
same?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. I am Scott Soshnick on the Twitter, just plain old at Soshnick. Our producer is Keith Zanardi. Thank you very much, Keith, for jumping in and helping out with the Sporticast. Our digital media editor is Cora Veltman. She loves it when I remind you that the show can be found at Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network. Okay, let me freeze this.